point to you like to come to this program and to build this program at UNLV?
Well, I've been very fortunate to coach, all over the country. This is my first time coming to the West Coast, but and didn't really know much about what was going on here, and then had a chance to talk with Coach and the support that the administration has brought forth. Obviously, the new facilities that are coming up, the Raiders coming into town, and the excitement about what's happening with football here. I was just blown away when I actually put my eyes to see actually what was happening here, and the excitement of what is happening for UNLV football is awesome. And I think it's a compliment to Coach Arroyo for the coaching staff that he's put together, to be quite honest. I mean, this is a top flight coaching staff from top down, and that's indicative of what's happening here and what people see of what's going to happen here in the future.
Once again, we're with Coach Glenn Thomas, UNLV's offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. And did more players begin to show up at the Fertitta football complex this week? What was it like for voluntary workouts this week, Coach?
I think it was great. I think last week we were 40 in the 40s. This week I think we're in the 80s. So it amped up a bunch this week. And I know there's excitement around the building, and the closer we get to it, the more excitement, anticipation that's happening. But I know there's an eagerness to get going, and guys are excited to be back and get a chance to work. And, in reflection of what they kind of went through for the last couple of months, I mean, there's a whole new appreciative of getting up at 5:30 in the morning to come to a 6 o'clock workout, and then for a while, you're kind of dreading that, saying, oh, I don't want to do this. But now they're ready, hopping up and ready to go. So it's been fun to see that perspective.
Coach, last night I was watching Twitter, and an offensive lineman, Alani Makahili, arrives from Anchorage, right? And around 10 o'clock at night, and he posts a photo of McCarran International Airport. You have to appreciate the enthusiasm of especially the younger players, right? A lot of them, some, I guess, there might be some that have never even been on this campus before or haven't spent, a lot of time here, but they're finally starting to arrive on campus. Could you see the enthusiasm in their eyes and with their attitudes as they arrive here?
Oh, I'm excited to see that. We have a whole crew of guys coming Friday, and they'll be reporting, the new guys coming in, and really in big picture, excited to get those recruits here to see, to see what this place is all about. That's been one of the things we're so excited about, to get them to show off this facility, to get to show off the stadium and what the energy is happening in this place. I think that is something that's just going to take the roof off of it. And not only the material things, but also the energy and the excitement of the coaching staff and what they're going to bring to the table. I think, kids and recruits and the freshmen coming in, I think that just, that'll lead to great things for sure.
Is it a different level, Coach, of excitement than when you first arrived, at Temple and then at Baylor, your last two stops?
Every stop's a little different, to be quite honest. This one was a little bit different because I came in at a little different time. Temple, Coach Rule had already been there a couple of years when I came in from Atlanta. Baylor, we had started there, from day one. So every stop's kind of been a little bit different. But I tell you, that was the first eye-opening thing for me. They had an early morning workout first day I got here, and the coaches had cut off sleeves and sweat and hats on backwards and going crazy, hooting, and I mean, it was awesome, man. I was like, they got the juice. And
they do have the juice.
Oh man, that leads to great things, man. And that it's contagious to the players, and they want to work and they want to play, and it creates that play environment we talk about all the time. It's not a check the box thing. It's let's go play, because you're going to maximize your time out there when you're actually playing, when you're having a good time, when you're enjoying competing. And, we got to bring that as coaches, and that helps that environment.
Coach Glenn Thomas is with us. We'll get to your questions here momentarily, but I wanted to ask you, and a lot of the fans would like to know, what offensive scheme will you be running at UNLV? When you arrived at UNLV, did Coach Marcus Arroyo, who's an offensive-minded coach, and the offensive staff meet and then collaborate and then craft the style of offense that the Rebels will be running this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think that's a great word, just the collaboration of it. As I mentioned, the staff, both offensively and defensively, is top tier in my opinion. So there's a lot of experience in that room, a lot of people that have had success with different schemes. So I think it's a matter of putting the pieces together of what fits best for our team. You know, in my history, I've done everything from in the NFL, you're more pro style and 21 personnel, downhill run game. In Temple, we were a little bit more of that as well, with two big tight ends and a fullback and a little bit more smash mouth. And then we also kind of ran some zone read. So, and then we've been spread. At Baylor, we were kind of spread a little bit. So I personally have had experience with a little bit of both. I know our staff has as well. So now as we kind of put those pieces together and put our players in the best position to be successful, I mean, at the end of the day, that's our job. So whatever that is, I don't think there's any egos involved as far as putting a scheme together, say. Let's just go put the best schemes together for our guys to be successful.
We remind everyone tuning in to hit the Q&A feature, and then your questions will go through and we'll get to them as soon as we possibly can. We've got one more question, and then they're starting to flow through here, Coach. But who will be making the play calls this season? Will that again be a collaborative effort?
Yeah, I think so. If however that evolves, moving forward, we've both done it, and Coach has a great history with it and has been successful doing it. So we'll kind of go from there.
John B says, Coach, I won't ask who will be. You knew we were going to get to this sooner or later. I won't ask who will be the number one quarterback, but can you tell us what the major criteria is for making your decision?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's putting us in as an offense in a position to be successful and to move the ball. At the end of the day, there's different kinds of quarterbacks. There's kinds where he's really the main guy on the whole field. There's guys where they just are managers. You hear that term all the time. But at the end of the day, you got to put ourselves in a position to be successful. I don't think there's a criteria as far as he needs to do this checklist of things, but he needs to do enough to put us in a position to get first downs and put us in a position to score points at the end of the day.
Our first winner of the day is Justin M., and you win a Raising Cane's gift basket, a gift basket from Raising Cane's, and someone from UNLV Sports Marketing will get in contact with you shortly. And you had been with Coach Matt Rule the past 5 seasons, Temple and Baylor. How much of that offense, again, Coach, that you ran with Matt Rule has influenced, this type of offense that will be run at UNLV? And again, It's probably some sort of a hybrid with you and Coach Marcus Arroyo with, again, your minds coming together, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I think it's just added to the history and the toolbox, if you will, as far as what I've done personally, and gives more flexibility to what we can do here with the personnel that we have. I know we have, a solid group of receivers that we can be out there and be in a 3 wide, even a 4 wide, but also too we have, some tight ends that can be out there and give a totally different look to the defense. So, like I say, we've done a little bit from heavy personnels to more spread out stuff with Coach Rule and have been effective with it. I think the more that you can do that, at the end of the day, that gives more looks for the defense and gives those guys, more to prepare for through the week. So there's advantages to doing a little bit of both if you can.
Coach, back to the quarterbacking position, because those are the questions we get the most. And you have a logjam at QB and depth that has not been afforded to this program in the past. Is there expected to be a competition there?
I think there's a competition at every position, to be quite honest. And I think that only breeds the best out of everybody, not only quarterback, but, a lot of positions. Those guys are going to be fighting every day to be the best that they can be when they get their opportunity. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a 5th-year senior or, been here 2 days and you're a freshman. I mean, the expectation when you go out there is to make plays and be effective. And, I think everybody's got a clean slate. That's one of the benefits of a new staff coming in is there's no preconceived notions or perception of what this guy is or what he can or can't do. Let's go prove it and go earn your spot. So I think that'll nothing but improve us and make us better through practice.
QB mostly working out of the shotgun?
Yeah, mainly shotgun. Yes. Yep. And they've had a lot of history with pistol, so a combination of both of those.
It's been an unprecedented time, Coach, in our country. And how have you been able to evaluate talent, right, with no spring practice and no real time of seeing players in action on the field? So how do you evaluate the talent that you have?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been unique, but it's the circumstance that we're in, and I've watched all the game film from last year, and I've been able to give feedback to Armani and Kenyon and those guys. Hey, I saw this in this game and this route, and make cut ups to say hey, this concept was good. You did this, or let's work on this. So I think we've definitely been able to gain some ground. We haven't been on live on the field together, but I have some sort of a foundation of what's going on, and we got to build upon that, obviously.
I asked D coordinator Peter Hansen last week, Coach, about whether or not you feel that this might be, due to the circumstances, the most mentally prepared team you've been around because of the time you spend in Zoom meetings and with other preparations.
Yeah, and I would say mentally prepared, not only schematically, but in a lot of phases in their life, and Coach Arroyo's done a fantastic job over the last couple months of creating a culture, a mentality, self-evaluation. We've had team speakers. I mean, every avenue that we could possibly use to build individuals, we've tried to use, and Coach has done a great job with that. So there's been great reflection individually, not only the players, but as the coaches. Just like I mentioned earlier, that 6 o'clock workout, that comes at a little different perspective than it did, maybe if you'd have been doing that for 4 months in a row, So I think there's been a lot of growth, like you say, mentally, which will pay off in the long run.
A lot of homeschooling, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's my wife.
How much, a question for Coach, how much film on the returning quarterbacks have you evaluated?
As much as I possibly can. I've even gone back, a couple years ago, Max Gilliam's got a couple, some reps, he got banged up a little bit last year, but I've tried to watch all of them as much as I could, just to at least have an idea of what was going on. And, does that have any bearing or influence on what happens moving forward? No, but at least it gives you kind of a starting point of what's happening, and particularly as we kind of start, creating the offense, what scheme, X's and O's, that type of stuff. So I've tried to, watch as much as I possibly could.
And based on opponents, last night, Coach, I was watching Texas Baylor from last season. A lot of the time you went 2 tight ends and you just played power football, smash mouth, and you'll have to adjust and adapt, obviously, based on opponents, I would have to gather.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you had the flexibility and the personnel to do that, then, like I say, that creates some mismatches, in some ways. They, particularly what they did, that gave us some advantages. So we kind of stuck with that and had some success with it. So we stayed with it, so.
Yeah, you catch them pretty good at times. From Timmy T, Coach, what is your vision for the identity of the offense? Is the goal to be balanced or run or pass heavy?
Yeah, I think that's always an interesting question that you always get, every year, really. But at the end of the day, you're going to call what works. Like you mentioned that 2 tight end set. If that's something that's working in the game, that's what you're gonna do. And some games you end up throwing it a little bit more than others. Some games you end up running a little bit more. It just kind of depends on what's kind of working. I think you go into it saying you're going to be as balanced as possible, both in run and pass and in personnel. But just kind of whatever. Not only a particular game, but always not only in game plan, but also what's working in the game. So I think you always kind of have that attack mentality. You kind of start from there based on the run game. So you're going to try to run the ball and attack in the run game, and then have some play action, take the ball over the shots, mix in some drop backs here and there with some, particularly on 3rd downs and passing situations. And then, you go from there as far as kind of what's working with personnel or scheme.
Jason A has a question. He asks, Coach, what is the biggest challenge you are personally facing in your first year at UNLV?
Well, it's probably has been that uniqueness of, being here a couple of months and having, missed out on some spring practice and trying to try to figure out, some personnel, not only the X and O's of it, but just the personal relationships that you build with the players is what we're really in it for at the end of the day. And so, having Zoom calls and, team calls and those type things has been awesome. But to actually, sit face to face and have a chance to talk with a young man and understand his life and what makes him, makes him work and motivates him, I think that's been the hardest thing that I personally have to miss out on.
I wanted to talk to you about Charles Williams. He has been a workhorse at UNLV. When I saw him a couple of months ago, he looked different. He was hitting the weights. He was hitting the weights really hard, and he was on a solid diet. What are your expectations for him this season? And I don't know if you can answer this, but what percentage of the carries do you feel he will receive? I just saw I read an article the past couple of weeks, Coach, in which they said Charles Williams has quickly moved up the charts and might be the number one running back that could be drafted next year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. I tell you, I've been thoroughly impressed watching him on film and the production that he's had, but also just as much as his influence that he's had on our team, because he's a leader on the team. He was one of the top GPAs on the team. He picks up the offense as well as anybody. So I've been thoroughly impressed with him in a lot of levels. And I have high expectations for him. I know he does as well. So, I think as many times as we can get in the ball, I think good things are going to happen.
Yeah, last year, just one story about Charles Williams that just, comes to mind. He's sitting in the ice tub, and he was asking me and a couple of other guys what the school records were for rushing. So he wants to achieve that high level. And he said when he leaves here, he wants to be the number one rusher in school history. So that's a lofty goal, but it's achievable, right?
Well, I tell you, to his credit, he's been working at it. Like you say, he's up in his weight. He's up to like 205, 208 right now. So he's put on a lot of weight. Looks really good. Has been rehabbing, getting his body healthy. So excited about what he's going to be doing for us.
He also, had mentioned to me, Coach, when I last saw him, he doesn't start running. He was not going to start running until a certain, time so that his body could heal from the past season. Do you find that in a lot of athletes?
Yeah, and I tell you that probably, if there was benefits, that probably was a benefit of some of the time off. Those guys have been able to get healthy, and spring practice. There's obviously tons of benefits from it of being out there, but also a benefit of not doing it is, some guys are able to get healthy. I know we had a lot of guys that were kind of nicked up and banged up, so we're anticipating going into fall camp. Most guys being ready to go, almost 100%. So. I think he's taken full advantage of that, and just like many of them have. So we're excited about having, full guns blazing here when camp starts.
Congratulations to Brandon W. He wins the UNLV Nike shirt, the hat, and the mini helmets, and a member of the UNLV marketing team will be in touch with you. Congratulations once again to Brandon. And we've got a question here from Tim P. What is your philosophy on recruiting? What attributes are you looking for in a student athlete, Coach?
I think that's an interesting question, and there's a lot of debate and a lot of discussion of that every year. At the end of the day, historically, I've had the most success of getting guys that have elite measurables. That you'll look back 4 years down the road and say, hey, this kid was 6'5" and he ran 4'9". Now he's 295 pounds. He's going to be an NFL lineman. You try to recruit those guys that have length, speed, and athleticism, and then let them grow up. It's amazing what happens in a couple of years. I know what was it last year? Our average freshman put on about 17 pounds within about 6 or 7, 8 months. So that's pretty common as you take that next step to college football. So I think that you got to have those measurables when you go recruit a guy, because that creates that much more top end potential or impact player in the long run.
Glenn Thomas is with us. We're doing a Q&A. Get on board if you're tuning in and ask a question of the coach, the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Coach, someone asked, can you please give us 3 reasons that fans should come out and watch the Rebels this season? Give us 3 reasons why fans should come out to watch UNLV football.
Well, first and foremost, guys are just working relentless to be successful at the end of the day. They want to be good. They're working hard to be good. They're excited about being good, and they're putting in the work to do it. So that in itself, I think, creates excitement. A big one now is the Allegiant Stadium. Just to get a chance to go see, I'm excited to see it. I haven't had a chance to be in there and see what that place is about. I see pictures and drive by it, every couple of days, and it's just like, wow, it's unbelievable. So I'm excited personally to be in that place, but also too, what's going to happen here in the next few years. Like, we're excited about what this is being built. You know what I mean? And now as we start creating this, and this is an everybody thing. This isn't just like this one guy. As you build something special, it takes everybody to build it up. So the more people that we can, get in the stadium and create that environment, that home field advantage, the better off we're going to be, because it is contagious to the players. Just like I mentioned earlier, as far as bringing enthusiasm and excitement to the practice field, that game-like environment is like no other. So the more people, the more excitement that we can bring to that stadium, the better energy that we'll have, and hopefully play better at the end of the day and help us build something here in the near future.
Coach, schematically, again, a question about scheme, but Baylor used 10 personnel, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers, and no tight ends a lot of the time, and then 11 personnel with 1 feature back, with 1 tight end and 3 receivers also. Again, schematically, is this your scheme dependent on the type of personnel that you'll have here at UNLV?
Yeah, I think it is dependent. In the time that we were at Baylor, for example, we didn't, when we first got there, we really didn't have tight ends. They had like a lineman basically that was playing tight end. So, that forces you to play a little bit more receivers. And then, as you recruit and you kind of build to what you're trying to build, you can build to position specific. So the good thing about, like I mentioned earlier, I think we have a good combination of skill guys, big guys, so there can be a multitude of personnel groupings and create some different looks for the defense.
Again, season tickets, folks, 739 fans or UNLVrebels.com. Brand new stadium, as Coach had mentioned. And also, I think, it's a big plus now to have Allegiant Stadium centrally located in the middle of the city where our fans could come from everywhere. From Mike D, Coach, do you plan on being on the field? They asked this question of Coach Hansen last week. Do you plan on being on the field or up in the booth during the game?
I think I personally would like to be in the booth. I think you get so much different perspective, particularly when you're communicating with the quarterbacks. There's a calmness up there. There's a peace and quiet. You can lay out all your papers, get organized. I personally like to be up in the field and then give accurate information, when we get a chance to talk to the quarterbacks during the break. So, I think I think I'll be up in the box, but, we'll iron those out, the closer we get.
Coach, how important is it to control the line of scrimmage? Was the way that Oregon manhandled Utah in the trenches, and I think Marcus Arroyo's trademark game as offensive coordinator, as far as running the football, and how you ran the football, during your run at Temple, at Baylor. Is this the way that you'd like to see the offense run with now you have some returnees on the offensive line, you have some new recruits? How's the offensive line shaping up?
I'm excited about them. I really am. I think we'll have a great group up there, and I think that's as important as anything is establishing a line of scrimmage. In my whole coaching career, the only time that I've been successful or been around successful offenses is when we were able to control the line of scrimmage, and that's something that we will we'll preach, we'll talk about, we'll take pride in. And I think there's a lot of elements, but at the end of the day, it's about moving it. It's awesome when you can run the ball, when they know you're going to run the ball. You know what I mean? When you can get to that point.
And they just can't stop it, right?
That's exactly right. And we got to that point, several different times. And like you're talking about with the Oregon, they were able to do that some. So, when you get to that point, you have a mentality and a pride level in taking advantage of that line of scrimmage and dominating it. So there's nothing really more demoralizing than, running the ball when they know that you're going to run the ball.
Coach, I don't think we've seen here in all my years around UNLV football the type of depth I think that you're afforded now. You come from a Power Five program. Is there enough depth in your estimation to compete at a high level here at UNLV?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everywhere I've, ever been, and any coach ever been, you always want like a little bit more or this and that. But I think there's a great luxury of having a lot of guys. I mean, you talk about quarterbacks specifically, we've got a bunch of guys that even have game experience and have a bunch of starts. And, that's not the norm a lot of times. At Baylor, for example, we had Charlie Brewer, and he was kind of all the way through. And whereas here we have 3 or 4 guys that have played a bunch. So, that's a nice luxury that they get out there. This isn't bigger than, the stage isn't bigger than them. There's a comfort level of getting out there and going to make plays. So I'm excited about that. There's a bunch of receivers that have, a lot of catches, a lot of reps under their belts. So like you mentioned, offensive line, there's experience there. So, I'm excited about what we can build upon, based on their background and what they've been able to do already.
Congratulations going out to Grant B. Grant B wins the UNLV Nike hat and the Gatorade bundle, and a member of the UNLV marketing team will be in touch with you, Grant. Congratulations shortly. We've got a question, Coach. You had a long stint in the National Football League. Who are some of the top players that you worked with in Atlanta? Matty Ice. And what are some of the things that you learned from the professional level that perhaps you brought to the collegiate level with you?
Well, I was very fortunate to be in Atlanta in a fun time. We drafted Matt Bryan the first year we were there, so I was with him for 7 years, and top notch in a lot of levels. Everything that you would want from a quarterback, he brings it on and off the field. So I was very fortunate to be around here for a bunch of years. But along those lines, I was with Roddy White, Julio Jones. We drafted Julio Jones when I was there. Tony Gonzalez finished his career with us there in Atlanta, which, as good as they come. And, so I was very fortunate to be around Michael Turner. So we had a bunch of guys that, had a lot of success, and it was fun to be around them at the end of the day. But I always talk about, like, Tony Gonzalez, for example, as good as he was, however many years he was in the league, I'll never forget, even Saturday mornings, we'd have kind of a walkthrough, and then he would still go get his weights in and lift before we got on the bus to go get on a flight to go to a game. And, I'm like, golly, this guy's broken all these records. He's already so much further past, the normal player, but he's in there even on a Saturday, working out. And that was eye-opening for me to say, okay, well, this guy's elite for this reason. And he was one of the first guys out to practice. He did a little, footwork drill every day before practice. And, again, however many years in the league, 17, 18, however many he ended up was, and he's still doing this footwork drill every day before practice. It was a compliment to him and the work ethic that he put in, and obviously paid off with his success.
Coach, you talked here at UNLV about some of your wide receivers, right? And you have some players that they're probably better equipped, or I think more productive, let's say, if they're in space, like a Tylee Collins. What do you know about him? Again, they've been running jet sweeps with him in the past. Makai Stevenson's back. Patrick Bullard, had some promising moments a year ago. But tell us about some of the players, the wide receivers, and what you think you have there more specifically.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Steve Jenkins, another one.
Jenkins, yeah.
I think, there's several guys in there that we can, utilize in a lot of different ways, whether it be, like you say, fly sweep. They had a lot of success, with the ball in their hands on the perimeter. But I think there's enough athleticism that we can get the ball to them, whether it be screens, quick game, and just let them go make people miss in space. So we're excited about that. And not only the receivers, but, Charles Williams, get Charles out there and, utilize him on the linebackers, if you will. So I think we have a nice roster as far as trying to utilize one-on-one matchups. And, that helps you, if you're trying to run the ball. And how they stop to run the ball, they crowd everybody in the box and you play man coverage, and now you're one-on-one outside with some of those guys. that's how at the end of the day it works.
We talked about tight ends earlier. How about an H-back within your system? Is that a position that you will be utilizing this upcoming season?
Yeah, in H, you mean like a wing or?
Yeah, sort of a wing.
Yeah. No, I think particularly in today's college football, that's that creates a lot of problems. Especially when you start talking about utilizing the quarterback and the run game and some different things that tight end can do as far as movement. But I think we can. I think we have, like I say, some guys in there that can do that. Gio, I think is really a good player and can do a lot. Yeah. And do some good things that way. He's athletic enough that he can be there, but also too, he's got enough strength and power that we could put him on the line of scrimmage and be a traditional on the line tight end. So when you have a guy that can kind of do a little bit of both, then you got some good things, that you can do.
What I've also noticed within your offensive scheme, Coach, the fact that your running backs and obviously your guys on the edge, on the perimeter, they need to block. Right. So, I mean, will you be utilizing like more power backs in blocking situations and such?
Yeah, but I would agree with the blocking. Whatever scheme that happens to be, that's to be determined. But I think that's a huge part of it. I know Terrence Samuel, our receiver coach, he talks to the receivers all the time about blocking. And our whole goal at the end of the day is to get the running back on the safety. And then let's go celebrate the end zone. I mean, if we can get that one-on-one matchup to the safety, then good things are going to happen. But that doesn't happen unless the receivers, go block and be physical and take pride in it at the end of the day. And I know he puts that as an emphasis, and they talk about it all the time. And when you get to that situation where receivers are blocking for running backs, say, then you have a good culture. People are willing to sacrifice their own success, if you will, individual success for the team. And I think our guys will do a great job of that, and I think they'll take pride in it. I think they'll excel at it. So excited to see that part of it, as far as we build the culture and as we build that selflessness, that guys will, lay themselves out there for others.
Yeah, for sure. Thomas B., his question: how impressive would you rate the non-conference schedule this year? Have you been able to spend any time studying the defenses of Cal, Louisiana Tech, ASU, and Iowa State?
Yeah.
You've had a little bit of time. Have you been diving into those films?
Yeah, we have. We spent a bunch of time on those films, and all good teams, all good teams. A couple of them have new defensive coordinators, so that always brings a unique, perspective of, the unknown of what they're going to do, just like we kind of bring that unknown to what, our opponents, they don't kind of know what we're going to do. So there's always that, that unsure based on film, but, you go back, you look at other teams, you try to figure it out and piece it that way. But yeah, we've definitely started looking at other teams and, kind of plotting out some game plans, some ideas that'll help us, as we get closer to game time.
Coach Thomas, someone asked if you could go over the list of the offensive assistant coaches. You mentioned Coach Samuel earlier.
Yeah, Coach Samuel, he was from Michigan State, coached the receivers there, did a phenomenal job, was there, a lot of years, and obviously they've had a lot of success there. Cameron Norcross came from Vanderbilt. He's, does a fantastic job, got a great energy. How those O-line guys are. They're a little different. They, big personality, gregarious, all that. So he fits that mold, and he keeps the offensive staff on their toes for sure. Jordan Paopao coaches our tight ends and special teams coordinator. He came from Washington. He does a fantastic job. Obviously, they've had a lot of success at Washington, so he brings great perspective. And then obviously doing the special teams on top of that. And then Scott Baumgartner is our running back coach within New Mexico. Has a wealth of knowledge. He's coached receivers, he's coached quarterbacks, he's coached running backs. So he's got great perspective that way. And, I can rely on him. I can lean on him to ask, a variety of questions because he's kind of been there, done that. So been a great staff. Nate Longshore, he's our offensive assistant, played at Cal, helped Coach Arroyo at Oregon some. He's been fantastic for me personally, working with the quarterbacks. Charlie Langsdorf was with coach and played at Oregon. He's our offensive GA, works with Coach Norcross. So fantastic group, good people, fun to be around, no egos, whatever it takes just to, to get the job done at the end of the day. So they've been a fun group to be around.
Coach, do you feel that this program can become a winning program in short order? For example, okay, so Matt Rule, his first season at Temple, you weren't there yet, but the Owls went 2-10. And then when you arrived, 10-4, 10-3 seasons, at a time in which I believe the Temple Owls didn't have double-digit win seasons since the 70s. And then you go to Baylor, and then Baylor was struggling, obviously, with 1-11 your first year there. Then 7-6, you crept up, and then you finally break through 11-3, that seventh place finish that we were discussing in the final polls. Can this program, just based on maybe the components you've seen, the pieces, and could this be a program that turns around quickly? There's not a winning tradition here, and the program coach, to be quite honest, has not been to a bowl game since 2014.
Yeah, I don't know if you necessarily put that perspective on, the rebuilding or what the time frame is or was from that. The Temple's, the Temple situation, I know before I got to Temple, they played a bunch of freshmen, played a bunch of young guys, you know what I mean? And those guys kind of grew up, they played a true freshman at Temple, Coach Rule's first year, and then he ended up being a senior our last year there. Baylor was very similar in the fact that we played, I think it was 19 true freshmen that first year when we went 1-11. So, and I'm talking true freshmen. So, 18-year-old guys out there, fighting tooth and nail and did a great job. And those guys kind of grew up in the system, and, they were obviously, most of them were juniors that last year, with a handful of seniors. So we have a great group that have experience here, which is a great advantage. So I don't know if you put the timetable on, has it got to be this year? At the end of the day, you just got to try to go get better every day, and I know that's cliche, but, practice breeds confidence, and let's go practice hard and let's go breed some confidence and let's go set the expectation to play good. And then, what happens from there. But, the bar is going to be set. We're not going to lower the bar or say, oh, it's our first year, this is okay. I mean, you got to go create the expectation of winning and push for that. And they've got to expect that. And, and that's every day. I'm not talking the first game, fifth game, 10th game. Let's go be better than we were yesterday. And I think if you create that approach, you can look back, months down the road and say, look how far we gained. Now what your time frame is that? I think that's unrealistic to put a time frame on it, but I think that's the approach you take, and that's that's kind of the approach that we've had at those other places, and it has led to success eventually.
Our final winner today, Jason A., and he gets to take home the UNLV football. So congratulations going out to Jason A., and a member of the UNLV marketing team will be in touch. What do you know, Coach, about Mountain West football?
To be quite honest, I don't have a lot of history here, but I've always been excited about it. I've recruited out here. I know a bunch of the coaches out here, so I've had a lot of conversation. I haven't had my hands on it like I do now, so I'm excited to learn about it and study it and get to know the opponents better. And a lot of good players. I know that a lot of good players as we kind of watch it and see what's kind of out there. So I'm learning every day, but I'm excited to be a part of it. That's for sure.
A question from Louis G., who wants to know if you are going to be incorporating a lot of screenplays this season, Coach.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned with the receivers and all the, the receivers in space, some of the running backs that we have in space, I think that's a great way to utilize screens, get the ball on the perimeter, make those guys tackle. That's been a topic of discussion even for our defense. That's one thing with spring practice, those defensive guys, they're not able to tackle a bunch, you know what I mean? So how's that going to affect that side of the ball? So let's go make those guys tackle on the perimeter. And I think that's a great way to do it. Whatever the scheme is, but at the end of the day, you get it to the perimeter and let those guys go do what they do best.
Coach, earlier we talked about Matt Ryan, your NFL experience, and He threw for 4,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, Matt Ryan did, in each of his 3 years that you worked with him directly with the Falcons. And then you also developed other college quarterbacks, P.J. Walker, for instance, at Temple, Charlie Brewer, you mentioned him at Baylor, going back to your days at Midwestern State, a quarterback that I'm not very familiar with named Daniel Polk. But how much time do you have to spend with a quarterback to find his true potential? So is it sometimes just little tweaks in their game? They have, that natural ability. Does it have a lot to do with footwork? What are the factors?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think everybody's probably a little different, to be quite honest. Sometimes it's just a matter of teaching them the game and how to beat a defense, like, hey, versus cover two, this is the throw. Or, one thing with Matt, for example, I thought we were able to make some strides. It's just helping his footwork, helping his timing, helping his accuracy with his lower body, for example. With PJ at Temple, he had great physical tools. Now it's a matter of just teaching him the game. Hey, this is cover three. This is what I need to do with the ball, when I need to do with the ball, as far as timing, drops, how the whole piece of the puzzle fits together, and how you react in a timely fashion. So I think it's a combination of probably a little bit of both, but I would say individually is probably a little bit different.
Coach, let's get some final thoughts from you about the potential of the UNLV offense and what type of fireworks we're going to see this upcoming season here, the inaugural season at Allegiant Stadium.
Well, I'm excited about the fireworks. You talk about the fireworks. I'm excited about that part of it. But I think we got a great nucleus of returners. I'm excited to see these young guys come in. Without fail, every year there's one of the freshman guys that come in, and 3 or 4 of them, they just come out of nowhere. And whether they be starters or they're impact players, I'm excited to get a chance to get to know some of these young guys coming in Friday, and how they're going to affect this team immediately. It's not, hey, don't come in a red shirt, let's go play. You're gonna help this team win. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about, like you mentioned earlier, the depth and the reps and the history that some of these guys already have on the field, that we can build upon that, because there's already a confidence level there. And I know that they have an expectation. Those guys want to work. They're ready to go win games and work hard to do that and go earn it. So, and they've been doing that through this whole process. I know they're doing it now with kind of get back in the facility. So all those things lead to great things, and they want it as bad as anything. So they're working for it, and we're working for it, and we're going to go try to make it happen at the end of the day.
Personal question, Coach. When can we find you on Twitter?
Twitter. I'm Coach T _UNLV.
Oh, you're out there.
Yeah.
Oh, you are. So
yes.
Coach T _ UNLV. We'll find you there, and we'll friend you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and best of luck this season. We appreciate your time, and again, just telling us about UNLV's offense coming up this season, and again, just that enthusiasm and everything, the upward trajectory and the momentum around UNLV football. And fans, come on out, join Rebel Football. Once again, UNLVtickets.com, 739 fans, and we'll see you all this upcoming season. Coach Glenn Thomas, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Look forward to seeing you guys out there. Let's go rock and roll, huh?